this computer. I'm gonna lose it. All right, it's recording. Good morning, Wesleyan freshmen. I am Dr. Quarles, the Director of Multicultural Programs and Services here at Wesleyan. And it is my week to share the offerings from my office. So you've all met me in some capacity so far, I hope. My passion is making sure that we have a diverse and supportive campus. And I thought with everything happening in the world right now, that it would be a great way get a perspective from from a group that you don't always hear of, but is a group that is relied on quite a bit, is Black women. I want to give you a quote that came from Malcolm X, and it's: the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. We are seeing a lot of that in our news right now in regards to the murder of Breonna Taylor, in the regards to the murder of tens of trans Black women a year. That the identity of just being a woman in this country is not always the best, or not always perceived in a positive light. But we do have a lot of things happening positively with Black women. We have a woman of color that's going to hopefully be the vice president, potentially the vice president soon. Black women are graduating from college at a higher rate than anyone else. There are a lot of positive aspects. So we see the spectrum of what it means to live in this identity. And I wanted to talk with people that have lived this identity in different parts of their lives. So, and a person that is more seasoned in their life as a Black woman, a working professional that lives their life as a Black woman, and then a just recent student that's living her life as a young Black woman. And what that is like, and what their identity means to them right now in the midst of everything that's happening. So stick with me for the next 30 minutes or so, and hopefully this will be a positive conversation that you all will enjoy. So I would like to welcome our guests, and I'll have them introduce themselves. We'll just go up from the baby of the group and go up that way. Ms. Latia, do you mind introducing yourself?
All right. Do you want to make it short or just give a quick rundown? Okay, well, I'm Latia. I am actually a graduate of West Virginia Wesleyan College. I was part of the Black Student Union there. I started the chapter of the Young Democrats on campus. And I also was given the opportunity to work as a Judith Herndon, and actually worked with Delegate Marshall there down in Charleston during my first semester senior year at Wesleyan. I am currently still in school. I recently graduated with my master's in public administration. I am working on my doctorate right now in public administration, and that has kind of led me on a different path in life, just kind of looking at looking through a different lens at all of the things that I have encountered being here in the Midwest. Going out to West Virginia was kind of a culture shock, just because I am normally around an urbanized population, but coming out that way, being in a predominantly white institution, definitely changed my view on things. And then coming back home and bringing all that I've learned there back with me made me a better person. And especially living in the times that we do now, I try to look through a more culturally diverse lens at how I approach things or how things are brought to me. And I'm excited to be here and share that with you.
Thank you, Latia. Ms. Anitra?
Hi, I'm Anitra Hamilton. I am from McDowell County, West Virginia. I am a proud alumni of West Virginia University. I graduated 3 times. I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Biology and Psychology and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I currently work at Ruby Memorial in orthopedics. I work a lot with the students. I am a diehard Mountaineer fan. But lately, my passion has been to be an advocate for our Black students. Just remembering and understanding the privileges that I had when I was in college that I think I took for granted, that I did not really recognize and see how blessed I was and how the Black faculty really fought for me. I'm fighting that fight for the students now, even being on the outside. Although I'm not in academia, I'm not faculty, I am a community member, but I fight hard as much as I can. I show up, I support, I do whatever I can. I speak up when I can for the students. I'm a resource whenever I can for our students to advance on any level. I've joined as many committees as I can be on to provide opportunities for students so that they can advance to different levels, so that they can have that chance to see greatness. So I'm glad to be here. I have tons of stories and experiences from living in West Virginia. I'm just glad to be here. Glad to be here.
And then Delegate Charlene Marshall.
Well, thank you. And I'm pleased to be invited to participate. And I've lived in West Virginia all my life. I grew up in a small coal mining town outside of Morgantown and graduated from an all-Black high school. And at that time, of course, we know that all the schools, colleges, universities were segregated. So I had the opportunity to go and live with a family in Bluefield and attend Bluefield State. And I knew it was going to be pretty rough, but I wasn't there very long before my stepfather was killed in the mines. And my father had been killed in the mines when I was about 6. So we had a kind of a large family. So after my stepfather was killed, then I had to come back home, and I just decided to, try to work. Shortly after that, I was married, and I've been here forever. So I have 3 children. My daughter is a graduate of West Virginia University, and she's still employed at the Health Science Center. And I have a son that graduated school in California, and one that's retired from the Air Force. And my husband grew up here also, and he's been deceased for almost 13 years. So being someone who was always active in something, when I look back sometimes I thought, oh my God, I got involved in everything, from taking a course someplace. If there was a course offered, I took it. And then I've worked a variety of jobs and ended up at one point, well, I quit work at once because I thought I'd never work again, and took care of my father-in-law who had dementia. And after that, I thought, I don't think I like staying at home. I've got to go back to work. So I had a job at the Mountain Lair. That was my first time working for West Virginia University. And at that point, some of the students at a student body on campus and some other people sort of drafted me to become a candidate for city council. I did that. Student body ran my campaign, and we just made history, because I was elected to Morgantown City Council, first African American on council. And then after the election was elected mayor and served there for 7 years. And by that time, so many people were trying to draft me for the legislature. And then I thought, well, I'll try that. And went on to the legislature for 14 years. So now when people ask me, why don't I seek election? I thought, I am too old to campaign. And I gave 21 years as an elected officer, and I think that was enough. So I have been helping others with their campaigns now, helping some of the candidates that are running at this time, and just trying to do whatever I can for the community. And I heard the young lady said she was a resource for the students. And while I was at WVU at the Mountain Lair, I had the student ID, and at that time I monitored who had tickets for the PRT. And those students who were in trouble over the weekend, they always had to come back to me to get their PRT was confiscated, so they had to come and see me. So now when I see some of the prominent attorneys in Charleston, they say, oh, I had to come to your office and bend it in to get my PRT because they were trying to get booze in the game. So I still come in contact with a lot of them that I had to talk with some years ago. And so I'm just enjoying my retirement now and helping those who I can.
Mm-hmm. I think all of you said something in a way or fashion that I think I'll start with question-wise is, why are Black women so reliable? Everyone said that you know, or you're on a lot of committees, you've been an elected official for 21 years, you've been in school forever, you're to serve people. Why do it seems like we always rely on the onus and the intelligence and the backbone of Black women in this country?
Are you asking me first?
Anybody can go.
Okay. Well, I guess possibly, out of the young ladies and with myself, it's probably that motherly image. And I, just want to do whatever I can for other individuals. And so many times, even with the students at the university, I would feel sorry for someone who maybe came here and, and I would want to look at them as if I did my own children. And I have to tell you this one example. When I was at the Mountain Lair, and so many times some of the students would maybe do some things that I didn't think was exactly right. And this one young man, once he was speaking, I didn't think was very nice, and something he didn't want to do. And I asked him, I said, "Are you crazy?" So when I went home that evening and I was telling my daughter, and she says, "Mom, you can't be talking to those kids like that." I said, "Why not? I'll talk to them the same way I talk to you." And a couple of days later, that same young man came back and apologized. And he let me know that his family would not appreciate what he had said. He didn't say it to me, but he said it to one of my student workers. So I guess with me, that motherly instinct, and I just had so many of them who later I found out that some of the African-American students that maybe at the time I didn't realize who they were, and a couple of them who are still around Morgantown now, and one of the football players, and he said they always knew that I had their back, and I felt good about that. So just wanting to do for other people.
I can say, in agreement with Delegate Marshall, I come from a large family. Both of my grandparents had 11 children. So, right. So we got it done. I see my grandmother get it done. No was never an option. We never went without. My grandfather was a coal miner. There was never any lack. He bought the house. Back then, houses were split level. My grandfather bought both sides. So even in those times, my grandfather had a good name. Back then they had the company store. My grandfather had a good name. He can send his children down and get whatever he wanted on credit, it was hard back in those days, but they were able to get it done. So I was able to see my grandmothers on both sides of my family, raise up 11 children, plus all of my cousins and our family, get it done. So I had that strong work ethic in me to be reliable, to stand up, to fight one another, to be accountable, and I carried that with me. And it's funny because nowadays we don't see big families as much anymore. We don't see the relational skills as much anymore. But that's something that I carry with me, all the time. Those skills that I learned, that work ethic came from what I seen at home, growing up with my family.
That is awesome. Kind of just to piggyback off of what everyone else has said, is the work ethic, just being conditioned at a young age that you have to do this twice as better as everyone else because you're always going to be that step behind. So just taking that and the way that society has already counted out like the paternal side of African-American families, it's always looked at the woman to be like the change agent, the provider, the person to get it done. So that, I believe, kind of just, it rolls generationally with how you grow up. They say it takes a village, but really it's always kind of the mom and the Black woman that gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I guess I guess it's also like even in the Black church, they always depend on mostly on the women to take care of so many things. And maybe that's one of the places too that it comes from.
It's so funny you say that, because I always have said, it's so funny that on like Men's Day at church, you know, they might sing their 3 or 4 hymns. But I'm like, what else do y'all do? Because like the women's auxiliary is for every funeral. They're always the women are the usher board. So like, what do you do your one day that y'all been saying cooling water? Like, what do y'all do? And so we're seeing that a lot, especially right now in the election, that, you know, Black women are the reason that Joe Biden is the you know, nominee for the Democratic ticket.
So true. Because
they shifted, you know, that narrative. How does that feel to be obviously the biggest shift, you know, of the political power, but not even a part of the political conversation? So like you're shifting and you've made a nominee, but you're not a part of, like, Black women are not a part of the conversation. Even Kamala Harris on the ticket.
I mean, I feel conflicted. You know, it's that being on both ends of the spectrum where, you know, you're faced with these explicit racisms of people looking at you because you're Black and not wanting to bring you to the table or have a seat at the table. But then you get kind of like those unconscious implicit biases where they tokenize you for being the Black person, and they look at you for all the answers, and they put so much pressure on you because they think your voice represents the many. But I feel like it's almost like a scapegoat, so that they say like, oh, I have this one Black friend, or oh, I have this one Black person. So that solidifies me as being diverse and inclusive. But, so still a little indifferent about that.
I can understand when you say they look at you being that one Black person. Sometimes with all the individuals that I'm working with here in Monterey County, and also with our Democratic candidate for governor, Salango, and they've called me from different ones. They've called me. 2 of our candidates here have asked me to participate in a video for them. Salango came to visit me a couple of weeks ago, and I sort of feel like so many times that they want your participation, and they have people they're trying to get in touch with, and they need me to help them do that. But then sometimes it's almost like if they get you, they're going to go around, you know, and I have a little bit of a problem with it, but I just decided, well, I'm going to show up anyway, because if I've made the bridge for you to get across, you're going to see me whether you want to or not. But they still depend on us. And I had a conversation this afternoon. I told Jimmy, you can't stay long because I've got a Zoom at 6 o'clock. But he wanted to come and talk to me about another candidate and some of the problems that's going on. And so I feel like I have a voice in some of it. And they know that in no uncertain terms, if I have something to say that they may not like, they're going to hear that too. But they just seem to depend on us. And sometimes I don't really know. I don't know how to take it, if that's a positive or not. But
if it's genuine, like if it's genuine,
okay.
if you're a gatekeeper to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the gentleman that came this afternoon, he told me that he was talking to someone in Charleston that I hadn't seen for years that was active when I was there. And they wanted to know, what is Charlene saying about it? So he approached me because of that. So sometimes I just have to step back and look at it and try to think it over and try to figure it out.
Or you're the most important Black woman in West Virginia and you don't know it yet.
Absolutely.
I don't know about that.
Absolutely. It means you got a lot of pull.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we have to shift our perspective, because sometimes we have to take it step by step, because we might not be at the table yet, but you best believe we in the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they know we in the room. And I'm thankful that we in the room because we fought to get in the door. We're not in the door anymore. We're in the room. And they know they can feel our presence. And I'm thankful for that because we come fully loaded. We have knowledge, we have power, and we have found our voice. And we're standing up strong in it. There's a new generation that's standing up strong in it. And you know, we might not be at the table yet, but you're not kicking us out the room.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference.
Heard that.
So it's just a matter of time. We got some work to do to get some of those old traditional folks, you know, from the table. You know what I'm saying? But in the minute, their seat's going to be vacant. And when they do, you know what I'm saying, we're going to be empowered, full of knowledge. You know, we're going to know the game because we have great leaders before us like Delegate Marshall who know what to do, how to do it. And, you know, the people in Charleston know who to go to. That's why they sending them to Morgantown to get advice from her. You know, and if they're saying, what does she have to say? That just reminds me of the movie Hidden Figures when he wouldn't go in space until Katherine Johnson. He was like, I want to know, how does she feel about it?
Yeah.
And until they got the okay from her, that's when he went in space. You know, because they know at the end of the day, they know how we roll. They know how we handle our households. They know how we handle our business. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just at a stage in my life where I'm looking at it differently. We might not be at the table yet, but we're in the room and they know it. And you know, they know that if we get to the table, things are going to change.
Things are going to change.
And the change is going to affect all of the systems, you know, of systemic racism and oppression that have existed for years, that have benefited them. You know what I'm saying? But we're in the room.
Yeah, you know, and even in like recognizing my own privilege as a Black male, you know, I think even when it comes to Black women, you can even lump Black men in.
Oh yeah.
That there is a, there is just sometimes if you don't also recognize the way that we belittle or not include Black women into the narrative. You know, we see a lot where, you know, the Black women are the first ones marching. They're the first ones, you know, leading the protest. You know, Black Lives Matter was started by 3 Black women. You know, they were starting this conversation when no one else was. You know, we have seen people, celebrities and things fighting for justice for Breonna Taylor, but we've also seen it with Sandra Bland and countless other women who have, you know, been killed at the hands of police, but even just killed because of, you know, gender-based violence or domestic violence or whatever kind of violence is aided in that. Where do we see, or how can we mobilize, or where can we mobilize and not only just to support Black women, but, you know, what needs to be said continuously to the public that they understand and they have a more, I don't know, sympathetic or like a better realization that, you know, Black women are really in harm's way in a lot of places still?
I think one thing that's important, especially when it comes to Black women, is what we don't see a lot is consistency. You know, like you said, we run to the fire every time, and because that's what we do. You know, as Black women, we're up every morning with our children, with our husbands. You know, we're at every PTA meeting. We're there doing homework. We're there, you know, making sure our husbands are fed, making sure the household is done, making sure the bills are paid. This is what we do. So consistency is in us, but we don't always see that return to us. So when it comes to matters of the heart concerning us, we don't always get that back. So, you know, we might see a little support initially, but then the support is gone. So at the end of the day, all that we see is us supporting us, and then we know that there's always issues there. So I think consistency says a lot.
You know, and even just really quick, because Anitra, you're working in the medical field, you know, one of the big conversations right now is Black women dying at a higher rate delivering at childbirth, and Black women having access to like medicine. Like it's 2020 and we still don't have the science to keep Black women safe in the hospital.
Yes. I think that's our culture as a whole. And that's another area, just being able to talk. And honestly, that's something that's been weighing on my heart too. I do want to go back to school, because working in the hospital has brought a lot of another passion in me, because I think working in the hospital has been kind of a step too late for me with culture, because we have to be better informed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're lagging behind as far as being educated concerning our own health, and we have to be managers of our own health. And a lot of times we are not, and our culture is not trusting because of the harm that has been done to us.
Yeah.
We don't trust, and we have reason not to, but that is true, with women and with with our culture as a whole. It's sad in all areas of health, but you're true. It's true, because the unconscious biases, the stereotypes, we're not taken serious.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, it often leads to complications. It leads to death when it didn't have to. If they would have heard us and listened to us the first time, we could live.
I understand when you said lagging behind, because growing up doing the area that I did, and later when I began to learn some things, and I really felt bad because I just felt like I was definitely lagging behind, because I didn't have some of the knowledge, or we didn't have the resources that maybe that my children have had, or some of those who came later. And even those who came later, they still have some resources that maybe has not been available to them. So I truly can understand, and I agree with you on that lagging behind. So many times I just think, oh, if I could have done this. And since I didn't, or I wasn't able to, I just felt like I've always felt like I needed to move ahead as best I could.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you said about your family and having a good name, and I always thought that was so important, because the first thing sometimes people will say was, now, wait a minute, now who are they related to?
Yes.
And they're going to go back to that name all the time.
Yes.
Yes.
And like so many times I know
You did it to me the first time we talked on the phone.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my habits. If the kids were going someplace, I thought, whatever you do, you better not go out there and embarrass me. And I know a lot of mothers that say that too. So, I thought I will, like they say, I will kill you, but but there's just so many things that, and of course, I thought that if so many, looking back, I thought, oh, I wish I could have done this. So my kids were able to go on to school. I was just so pleased. And my one son went to school in Ohio, and then he went to California, and then he got his master's there. And then I have a grandson, and I'm just the only grandson that I have, and he went to Ohio State and got his master's at Toledo. So he's working at a college in DC. So I'm just so grateful for those. And, then later on, maybe I didn't have a chance to do all of those, but then you support those. You're going to always support your own and push them on to do things. Yeah. So we still have many things to be grateful for, and many items and many things to push forward for.
Yeah.
Here.
Let's see. I think I lost the essence of the question, but something I've just been toying in my head of listening to everyone speak is Black women are really powerful, and I don't know how to wake society up to that. I mean, we carry that mother gene. We can put out a baby that has blonde hair, pale skin, and they are still identified as Black.
Yes.
And anything you ever need done, I feel like Black women are multi-layered. We, like I said, are the providers. We go out, we cook, we clean, we organize. So it's just to society embrace the Black woman, because once you do that, there is a flow of change that can be unleashed. I mean, if you want to, you bring your kids to your mom, your Black mom, to watch your kids, or you in order to reach like just certain avenues, you always start with the woman, the Black mom. I feel like I go to my mom for everything. So I just feel like that is the message: embrace the Black woman, and the rest will follow.
Well, it's I mean, the lineage even down to slavery, where Black women were nursing white babies,
Yes,
white babies, and taking care of white homes. Like that is not changed for many people. There are still many, generations of women that have gone from, the slave maiden in a home to a housekeeper in a hotel, or a nanny in a white family.
Mm-hmm.
That generational thing has not changed at all, and it's hundreds of years. So we have to definitely recognize that the plight of the difficulties of this Black woman is literally dated to slavery. It is literally dated to, hundreds of years of oppression. And that probably is linked to why Black women are, back to that quote, because, you were nursing children that weren't even yours, that you didn't even give birth to, and then beaten by, said master or this person's father or mother, or like, it is, when people think about trauma, those things do line up for a very long time, and they're seen in those spaces. Another question I have, and I would love to get your perspective, Delegate Marshall, because being in politics, you have to be more assertive. Dealing with the angry Black woman, this narrative of, your assertiveness is masked as anger. How have you dealt with that? How have any of you dealt with that?
Well, make sure I understand what you're saying, because I, of course, Morgantown for city council, Montague County for the whole area for the House of Delegates. And I didn't want to come across like an angry Black woman. Mm-hmm. So I have tried to be as gentle. Maybe sometimes somebody would ask me a question or maybe come at me, and I've had this come towards me in an angry way. And I would try to, and probably did from what other people would tell me, I would give them a nice answer in a kind of a sassy way, and maybe sometimes have to really tell them off. But I didn't do it in an angry way.
Yes.
I tried to be diplomatic, and I would tell some people sometimes, I said, I won't take my daughter with me campaigning, because probably if somebody said something that maybe I could find a way to answer that, she would probably tell them off, boom, 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 So I try to be a little careful with that. And just the other week, I was talking to a young man who was probably a sophomore or junior when I ran for city council. He went on to be, and these were a lot of Caucasian young people. And then he left Morgantown. He went to other schools. Eventually, he came back to WVU. He had his PhD, and he worked here for a while. Now he's in Salt Lake City. So different times I'll call him and ask him different questions. And I say, now, I certainly don't want anybody to think that I would tell him off. And he said, like you haven't done that before. But I tried, I hope this is answering your question. I tried to be as direct as possible, but not really, to come off like I was just always angry or upset about something. And then that sort of leads me to something that's, and you probably know a young lady now that I just kind of feel bad, because I feel like she's coming off, although she did very well in the last election, she's coming off in a way like that. And some people have been taping her and they're going to use it against her later. So I think you have to be careful about how, how angry. And we're upset about a lot of things, but I feel like we could let them know we're upset, let people know you're upset, but not scream and holler.
Yeah.
Dr. Quarles, is that what you?
Yeah, no, that's answered the question perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Nitra or Ms. Latia?
That has happened to me several times at work. I've had a manager pull me in, and I've had patients to complain. And usually when it's patients that don't want me because I'm Black, their complaints against me are unwarranted, and it's usually some subjective reason. She was cold, or she was indifferent, or it's always something subjective, nothing objective that I've done. Oh, she was very professional, but I just don't think me and her get along, stuff like that. And this patient had this long list of all of this stuff that and my manager was an on-call manager, and I just flat out said, I don't agree. I don't agree with what you're saying. And, that was coming really hard at me. Well, as it goes on, the son was friends with somebody on the board of directors, which I didn't care. But because I said I didn't agree, that immediately, made them feel like I was now the angry Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, I'm not going to argue with you. I said, this isn't an argument. I just said I don't agree. I didn't never raise my voice. I didn't shake my head. I didn't wave my hand. I didn't do any of that. I just simply said, I don't agree. And, because I didn't comply with what they said against me, now I become the stereotype. No, you're not going to stereotype me either. So because I knew I wasn't going to win with her, and because I knew that this patient was making racist comments against me, I just let them finish. And whatever they wanted to do. And then I emailed the CEO of the organization, because at the end of the day, I need to be protected too.
Good.
And you missed it. You missed all of the microaggressions that was against me, because you got blinded by the fact that he's friends with somebody on the board of governors. So, and I was able to sit down and talk with the head of HR, the head of nursing. I was able to sit down and have a very candid conversation. But prior to going, I did my research. What are policies in hospitals across the United States concerning protected employees? Because I wanted them to know that you sitting down with an educated Black woman.
Good.
Not somebody, I didn't want them to think, because I'm pretty sure they thought I was going to come in and be mad and angry. No, I wasn't. We had a nice conversation, and I was glad that I was able to sit down and talk to them, and they was very candid. They was very honest, with me, and I was very honest with them that this isn't the first time, and some of the stories and situations that I had blew their mind. Yeah. I don't have to always, run and tell you things, but there are horrific things that happen that I would be justified if I wanted to be an angry. Y'all haven't seen an angry Black woman. Trust me. You know what I mean? And that's what I be wanting to. You have not seen an angry Black woman. This isn't angry. But, they like to put that narrative on us, and it's just not fair. Meanwhile, when they get mad, they flipping papers, hollering and screaming, slamming doors, but we can't say anything.
Or they're crying.
Right. They're crying and screaming at the drop of a dime, and I just be looking, shaking my head. But if I say no, then, I'm the stereotype. You're not putting that on me either.
Yeah.
Tia? No, I definitely feel that. I feel, unfortunately, the term angry Black woman syndrome, I feel like that is just another one of these predispositions that outsiders have, I guess, from outside looking in. I feel like they're predispositioned to think that, it's only angry when it doesn't agree with what they want. They tap into us when they need us, but if it's not, streamlined, or if I'm not assimilating to what you want, then I'm angry. Then you can use that. Oh, she became aggressive when she said no. Yeah. Oh, she became aggressive when she didn't agree. Like, no, it's your insecurity of knowing that you're wrong, because I'm right. but you want to use that as a means to kind of put me out and shut me up and keep me in that mode. So it's more so I believe they need to take a personal look, a personal evaluation when they come into the room. Because like you said, like they could have a whole meltdown and they just need time to cool off. You know, that was just, she's having a bad day. But if I have one, then oh my goodness, look at that neck roll. Look how she snapped her fingers. Oh my goodness. It's not, but it's never an equal playing field. So I just
that was spot. I mean, that was spot on. That was spot on, like in regard to the psychology of it.
Yeah. Dr. Cross, I want to tell you, now one place that I used to work at, I worked in a factory here in Morgantown. And again, I said, I've had so many examples where I was the first African-American female they ever hired. And there was a factory here, pretty large factory some years back. And I think they hired me in 1963, 64. There was 1,200 employees in the union, and I don't know how many hundreds in management. And they had about 12 Black men and no African-American females. So I was hired there, and I thought, I don't know what's going to happen to me when I go in here and how they're going to take me, but I made it through. Eventually became one of the only females that was ever elected to a union position out there because I would stand up for myself. But when I left there after 15 years and I went to work for the state, I had the reputation, they would always say, she will never get mad at you, but trust me, she'll get even with you.
I like that.
I like that.
And they would say, you know, and one of these days I'll have to tell you this example, it's pretty long, of one of the supervisors that was so mean with me because he didn't like Black people. And I thought, well, usually I can get along, manage with anybody. I don't care if you like me or not. I'm here to do my work. And one time I had, years later, had a chance to get even with him. And I had left the plant at that time. And when I called back and told one of the supervisors to tell a couple of my friends what had happened, they told me later, said, Charlene, within 5 minutes, it was all over the plant. Charlene got even with him.
Amen. Amen. I love that. I you know, definitely our students that are going to be watching this to like take away just knowing that there is this subset of Americans, of people that rely on greatly. Like there's a reason that politicians they look towards the climate of the Black woman voter. You know, there's a reason that Black women are put in management but not in power. You know, there's a reason that Black women are the example to, you know, what it looks like to raise a family but not, you know, put on front of the parent magazine. Like there is a reason behind that, and we need to start seeing that shift and that change. So I guess my final wrap-up question for all of you is, you know, we could have a pretty historic election this year, and we could see a woman of color that multiracial, but a lot of women could see themselves in her serve as number 2 in this country. And I think that, you know, if that doesn't break a glass ceiling, I don't know what will. Or at least half the ceiling, quarter of the ceiling be broken. But now seeing women, Black women in this new strength and this new power, what do you want to see? Like, what is the progress of Black women? Like, what do you believe the legacy is, or the lasting image of what it means to be a Black woman in America?
I think one of the first things I think of strong and strong, supportive, and of course in education, of course, educated, of course. But and I think I see so many on, because I guess I'm just watching CNN most of the time now, and some of those individuals on the different programs, African American women they bring on, I just marvel at them because I think they are so knowledgeable and could stand up against anybody. Mm-hmm. And I know myself, when I did work and I was in a union, I would take care of myself. And then finally it got to the place that sometimes when something was going on, some of the ladies would say, well, why don't we get Charlene and another lady that I was friends with, let them speak for all of us. And so many times I found that some of those people I thought were weak. And then I would have to say, no, I'm going to stand up for myself. You take care of yourself. And but I think that's a lot of it when you stand for yourself. But, and I think you can do it in a kind and gentle way, let them know that you mean business, but being strong.
Did you say me?
Miss Anitra. There was,
Oh.
Laura, somebody, my neighbor has a 18-wheeler, and he must be learning how to do back driving reverse right now or something. So I'm trying to cut the beeper noise out of the video.
Yeah, because it went silent here for a second.
Yeah, Miss Anitra.
One of the biggest things I think is so important today, especially with Kamala being in the forefront, is that so many people think that she just now got here.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
She didn't. She did not. She didn't just appear. And just to kind of marvel at our own Delegate Marshall, I mean, look at the work that she has put in. You know, I can remember when Hurricane Katrina hit, we was in church and she came in the middle of our service. It was like, can you guys go to Camp Dawson and volunteer? And we went because she asked us to go, you know, because she has that type of pull and relationship. We went, you know, and we volunteered. We went up there. But to put in that type of service, to have that type of heart and community, that as she went from, you know, I remember Delegate Marshall when she was in the Mountain Lair. I remember when she was the mayor of Morgantown. I remember when she became the delegate, you know, because I was a student then. So to see her go through all of those years, you know, as she went, she grew and she gathered people as she went, you know. So as today's time, as we grow, don't forget to take people with you. Yeah. That as you grow, you know, your community should grow. Don't forget to impart that knowledge. Don't forget to raise up that next generation. Don't forget to be an advocate for that next generation. You know, don't take all of that knowledge and take it to the grave. Yeah. You know, impart it into the next generation. That's how we succeed as a people, as a culture. We raise up that next generation so that when my seat is vacant, I want that next sister to take my place. I want her to understand how important it is to stand, to know my struggle. Even if she don't have the same struggle as I do, I want her to understand how important it is so that when she speaks, she can speak and tell my story, but stand in her relevance and understand who she is, but be able to know the history of who we are as a people, because, you know, somewhere in the middle, our story gets lost. And when our story gets lost, we begin to tell their story. I'm not going to sit at the table and repeat their story. When I get to the table, I'm going to tell them jokers about us. Yes. You know, I want to see our agenda on the table. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, don't just think we just arrived. No, we've been putting in work. Y'all just haven't seen it. Yeah. We've been putting in work. That's why when you say Charlene Marshall, we know who she is, because she's been putting in work. She's been putting in for years. I've been here since 95. Yeah. She's been putting in work. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you look at these people on TV, they've been doing it for years. And, you know, so that's what I take away with it. As you go along the way, you know, don't, wherever you are, take people with you. That's the power of who we are. And that happened in slavery. Yeah. Because if they took you from your family and put you somewhere else, that became your family. Yeah. You know, that is your people. If you move to DC, that's your people.
Yeah.
If you move to Virginia, that's your people. So take people with you.
Mm. Can I ask a question quick? Were you at Dixon's church?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh God, I thought you could bring tears to my eyes because I had been at Camp Dixon all night the night before when I rushed back to go to several churches and probably looked terrible. I don't remember,
You had on sweats. Yep, you sure did. And we went. I'll never forget that.
Oh my God. And just this evening they were talking about 15 years today with that hurricane. Oh my. What I've thought many times and I've learned many lessons. You never know who's watching you.
It's true.
Yep.
Well, just to wrap up on all those profound, I don't know how I'm going to end this compared to those, but that was beautiful. I would just like to end with the takeaway is that Black women or African American people in general are solid as a rock. And I say that because rocks put under pressure turn into diamonds, and then they become the thing that everybody wants. So I encourage everyone to understand that they really are powerful. That, like you said, if you haven't been brought to the table, just know that your presence in that room is enough to rule the world, to shake the world, to shake that room in general. So just to remember that no matter what, don't succumb to those the pressures. Just know that they're putting that pressure on you because they know what you can be and they know what you are powerful and capable of. And when you become that powerful and capable person, whether it may be in a factory or in an office, in a schoolyard, wherever you are, just know that you embody so much power and people are afraid of it. That's why they want to keep you in that shell. They want to keep you as a diamond in the rough. So when you come out of that rough, you can be bigger and better than that. So just know that you are greater and you're powerful and that you're meant to do much more than what society may be telling you at the moment. You just have to remember that, embrace it, and the rest will follow.
True words. A couple of nights ago, I was on a Zoom for Democratic women, and it was shown all across the state. And it was the night of the anniversary of the 19th Amendment women's suffrage. And they had asked me to be a part of it. And some of the readings that I did before that, it was about a Black woman's movement back before the 19th Amendment was ratified. And one of the ladies that I've always felt so just like to read about was Ada B. Wells. And when they were marching, now they're marching for the same thing, Black women, white women, working towards the same goal. But when they had a big march, they wanted the Black women to be in the back. And Ada B. Wells, after it started, she just ran up front and got with the women from her state. And I told her, I said, it's my kind of woman, because I would have done the same thing. And I thought, don't put me. And they had as the Black women that started, they had as their motto, which made me think of what you were saying. And it was lifting as we rise. And that's something I guess that we should always remember.
Yeah.
Love that. That is an excellent way to end this. Lifting as we rise. Well, I want to thank you women so much for joining me this evening. And for the students who watch this on Tuesday, I hope that they, for this brief time, they really could understand the breadth of what it means to be a Black woman, because it's a group that we depend on greatly, but a group that is incredibly underappreciated all the time. And no matter how successful you may be, you can be a delegate, you can be a nurse, and you can be a doctoral student, and there is still pressures put on you where people don't think you're good enough to do it. And that it should mean a lot that you can see these women shine through all of that and all that adversity and still stand tall today and speak their truth in all of it. So I want to thank you all again so much for taking that time and sharing your experiences with my students.
Thank you.
Been my pleasure.
Mine too.